We begin today at the Mishnah on Daf Chof Tes Amud Aleph, about 10 or 12 lines down from the top of the page. So this Mishnah will actually talk about a whole new subject, not really seemingly related to the subject of the Masechta at all, Kidushin. We began with the din of Isha Niknis, the kinyan of Kidushin. Then the Mishnah spoke about other kinyanim. And from the last Mishnah, it spoke about, or one of the Mishnahs before, it spoke about kinyanim, but this Mishnah actually seems to be, I think the Rishonim say, it's a continuation related somewhat to a Isha, as we'll see, when it comes to the obligation of a Isha fulfilling mitzvahs. That's one of the details it speaks about in this Mishnah. Zok Teilige Mishnah. Kol mitzvahs haben ala av, the mitzvahs of a son on the father. Now, what exactly those words mean, the Gemara will immediately explain. Hanoshim chayavin, men are obligated, and v'noshim peturais, and the women are exempt. V'chol mitzvahs ha'av ala ben, the mitzvahs that the father has on the son, echad anoshim ve'echad anoshim chayavin. Both men and women are chayiv in them equally. Another halacha, v'chol mitzvahs asay sha'azman grama. Any mitzvah say that's caused by time, it can only be fulfilled in a specific time. Anoshim chayavin, men are chayiv, and noshim peturais, and the women are potter. Rashi here actually translates when the Mishnah says zman grama in the literal sense, that it's a mitzvah that is caused by the time. It's a mitzvah that can only be fulfilled in a specific time because the Torah says that it's this time that causes the obligation of the mitzvah. There is a possibility of certain mitzvahs which could only be fulfilled in a specific time, but it's not really zman grama. I can't think of a mitzvah in our Torah right now, but let's say there's a discussion regarding the mitzvah of Kiddush Levana. Is it something that women fulfill or not? That's not a mitzvah min ha-Torah. Here, this Mishnah is discussing mitzvahs min ha-Torah, but I'm just trying to give an example. There is really no time frame that is given for the mitzvah of Kiddush Levana. But the fact is that the Levana, in its new appearance after 7 days from when it is born, is only one time a month. So it is connected to a specific time. So there's other examples also for this. When you have a mitzvah that could only be done in a certain time, but you can't really say it's zman grama. So there's a machlokes in Rishonim and Paiskim whether the women will be chayiv or not. Rashi seems to be translating the Mishnah literally that the zman causes the mitzvah to come. B'chol mitzvah sasei shalei zman grama. When you have a mitzvah sasei that's not related or caused by time, echad ha'anoshim ve'echad ha'anoshim chayavin. Men and women are equally obligated in this mitzvah. V'chol mitzvah lo yisaseh. When it comes to mitzvahs lo yisaseh, whether it's related to time, whether not related to time, echad ha'anoshim ve'echad hanoshim chayavin. Both men and women are obligated. Chutz, besides 3 mitzvahs lo yisaseh. Mibal takif, the lav of taking off the payas of the head. Ubal tashchis, the lav of removing the hairs of the beard. Ubal to tamel mesim, and the lav that applies to a kohen not to become tameh to a mace, to a dead body, that does not apply to a woman, only to a man. As it said, the Gemara will learn out every single detail over here. The Mishnah will be learned out from Sukkim. Okay, so the Gemara begins with explaining first the simple pshat of the first statement of the Mishnah. My kol mitzvahs haben ala av. What does it mean when it says in the Mishnah the mitzvahs of the son on the father? If you would translate it to mean kol mitzvahs the mechayiv bra lemebad le'abe. This means those mitzvahs that the son is obligated to do for the sake of the father, which would basically mean like kibud aveim, moira aveim, to honor a father, to have fear from a father and mother. So is that what the Mishnah is speaking about? And it's saying noshim peturais, that women are potter. But Vatanya, we learned Nabraisa, Ish, when it says in the Pasuk, the mitzvah of Moira Ave'im, so the Pasuk says Ish Imai, Vaviv Tiro. So it begins with Ish, a man. Ein Liela Ish, so I know that a man is obligated in this mitzvah. Isha Minayin, how do I know a woman is obligated as well? Keshu Aime Ish Imai Vaviv Tira'u, that you should fear, and it says Tiro in a plural term. Harekan Shnayim, so this includes 2, so it's coming to add not only a man, even a woman. So that cannot be the pshat of the Mishnah then. So what is the Mishnah saying? The way to understand the Mishnah is as follows. Call mitzvahs haben. The mitzvahs that are done with the son. Hamutales ala av lases libnoi. and it's the obligation of the father, it lies upon the father to get them done for his son, or in his son. And the Gemara will soon say what those mitzvahs are. Anoshim chayavim, the men are obligated, v'noshim peturais, and the women are pater. Now, what are these mitzvahs that the father has to do for his son?
So maybe Tiro goes on Ish on Imay V'Aviv.
Ish Imay V'Aviv. No, Tiro is going back to the one that has to fear, not the father and the mother. Tiro, it's not the taich, yeah. So the Gemara brings a raya, Tanina Laha, the Tana Rabbana. This pshat that we're saying in the Mishnah is a raya to what it explains also in the Brisa regarding this. Ha'av chayiv b'bnoi l'moiloi. A father is obligated to making a bris for his son, v'livdaisa, and if the son is a b'chayr, a firstborn, he has to do the pidyon aben for him. Ulalam de teire, and also to teach him how to learn teire. Ulasiya yisha, and to marry him off to a wife. Ulalam de umnis, and to teach him a profession, a craft. V'yesh imrim, and others say, af lahashitei b'mayim. He's also obligated to teach him how to swim. Rabbi Yehuda adds further another thing. Kol she'enim melamed, as b'noi umnis, a father that doesn't teach his son a profession, melamde listus. He's teaching him to be a thief. So the Gemara asks him this: listus al gadaitach. Could you say that if you just didn't teach him anything, it's like he's teaching him to be a thief? Says the Gemara, ela ki'ilu melamde listus. It's as if he taught him to be a thief, because someone that doesn't have a profession and he doesn't have what to eat, so then he will end up stealing money. So here we see in this brayso, the halacha that it said in the Mishnah, these obligations that a father has to do for his son, the bris, pidyon aben, and to teach him Torah. And those mitzvahs a father is obligated to do for the son, and not a mother. So l'mayla min Allah, what's the source that a father is obligated to do the mitzvah of bris milah for the son? The pasuk says, "Vayamal Avram es Yitzchak benai." Avram Avinu did the mitzvah of bris milah for his son. So the word benai is an extra word that teaches me that this is a halacha that the father is obligated to do for the son. Now, v'heiche deloymei avua, if the father did not do the mitzvah for the son, so then l'chayivi beidin l'mimalei. The bezdin of the city is obligated to see to it that a yid that doesn't have a bris milah should have a bris done. The chsiv, as the pasuk says, himoy lachem kol zachar. This is not speaking specifically to the father. It's saying to the bezdin that you should see to it that every zachar, every male should have a bris. V'heiche deloymale beidine, if the bezdin did not make him a bris, Mechayev ihu lemimol nafshay. So the person himself is obligated to see to it that he has a bris done when he's an adult. The chsev, as the pasuk says, v'orel zachar asher lo yimol es besar or lo sai v'nichresa. So here it's talking to the person himself that if he doesn't do a bris, then there's a isakaris. So here in the pshat of the Gemara, there's a discussion in Mefarshim about this. When it says here that the adult, the person, is chayiv to do a chiyuv of the bris for himself, does that mean that the chiyuv of the father, once he becomes bar mitzvah, is removed and now he's obligated for himself? Or maybe not. The chiyuv that the father has to make a bris for the son remains forever. There's no reason to say that it ever gets removed. In addition to that, when he himself is an adult, he has to see to it to fulfill that mitzvah of his father in himself. But really, it remains the father's mitzvah. The Rebbe discusses this in a sicha, Barichas and Chelik Yoral of Parshas Boy, both regarding bris and regarding pidyon aben, that we're going to learn soon. And there, the Rebbe's maskana is that according to the Bavli, the mitzvah on the father, both by bris milah and by pidyon aben, remains forever. But the adult as well, in addition, has a mitzvah to do that mitzvah for himself. Okay, now this is the source of a father doing it for a son. Ihi minol andalei mechayve. How do we know that a mother is not obligated to do the bris for the son? The chsev, because the pasuk says there by Avram Avinu, that same pasuk we quoted before, kasher tziva oisoi elikim, as the Eibusha commanded him. Oisoi, that refers to Avram Avinu, v'loi oisa, and not her, not Sarah, not a mother. Ashkechon miyad. So we see over here regarding Avram Avinu, this is a pasuk that says for him that he's obligated to do the bris for the son. L'daira is minol, and how do we know what it says there? And that pasuk is also for all future generations. It says the Gemara Tana de Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Shmuel taught the following halacha, or the following rule: Kol makim shenem matzav. When it says in the Torah the expression of tzav, that David is commanding, Eina ela zirus miyad u'ledairis. It's the Torah coming and commanding to go and do the mitzvah quickly and immediately, and this is both for the time being and also for future generations. Zeros, how do you know that the term tzaz means not only a command, but it also means to do it bezrizos, t'chsiv, tzav, Yeshua, v'chaskeyu, v'amtzeyu. So the pasuk uses the term not only command Yeshua, but it also says chaskeyu v'amtzeyu, to strengthen him, to encourage him. Well, the daides, and you see that the term tzav means for future generations. The chsiv, in another pasuk it says menayem asher tziva Hashem hala v'l'doidesechem. So it uses the term tziva, and it says for all future generations. Now, of daisai, the mitzvah that the father has to redeem the son, the mitzvah of pidin ben minalan. What's the source for this? The chsiv, the pasuk says kol b'choir banecha tifteh. The b'choir, the firstborn of your son, you should redeem him. If his father did not redeem him, so he's obligated, the person is obligated to redeem himself. The chsiv, as the pasuk says, podei tifteh. So from this double lashon of podei tifteh, we learn out that he's obligated to redeem himself. That's the girsa that we have here in our Gemara, that is learned from the double lashon. There are other rishonim though that are not good as the word podei, and they're good in the Gemara that this pasuk, when it says kol b'chor banecha tivdeh, instead of reading it tivdeh, it could also be read as ti podeh, that you should be redeemed. So that's the source that he has to redeem himself. Now v'ihi minola and deloi mifkede. How do we know that a woman is not obligated to redeem the son? The chsiv, because when it says the pasuk kol b'chor banecha tivdeh, so it could be read tifdeh. That's the way it's pronounced, that you redeem the son, and then you could also read it ti podeh, you should redeem yourself. And therefore we compare the two and we say as follows: Kol shem mitzuveh liftois es atzmai, one that's obligated to redeem themselves, mitzuveh liftois es acherim, is obligated to redeem another, which is the son. Kol she'ein mitzuveh liftois es atzmai, if one is not obligated to redeem themselves, ein mitzuveh liftois acherim, you're not obligated to redeem another. Okay, that's the drasha, but the question is though, v'ihi minola on the loy mechayva lemifrik nafsha. How do you know that a woman is not obligated to redeem herself if she is a firstborn? The chsiv, the pasuk says, tifte tipode. The pasuk could be, the pasuk is literally says tifte, and it could also be read tipode. So we can compare it the other way around as well. Kol sha'acherim mitzuvim livdaisai. If others are obligated to redeem you, mitzuveh livdaisai satzmai, so you're obligated to redeem yourself. But if others are not obligated to redeem you, ein mitzuveh livdaisai satzmai, so you're not obligated to redeem yourself. But where do we know that nobody else is obligated to redeem a woman? The pasuk says, kol b'choir banecha tivdeh, banecha v'loi b'neisecha. So we learn out from the pasuk, you redeem your son and not redeem your daughter. So from here we know that she's not obligated to redeem her son as well. Just like nobody is obligated to redeem her, she's not obligated to redeem herself, and therefore she's not obligated also to redeem the son. Tana Rabbana, we learned in the Braisa. Who liftais, ubenoi liftais. What if the case here is that the father himself never had a pidyon ben done, so now he has the obligation to redeem himself, and he also has the mitzvah to redeem his son, the b'chayr. So who comes first? Who kaidem livnoi? The father comes before the son. So if he only has 5 sloyim to redeem one, just one of them, so he comes before his son.
He also has to go before his son.
Let's see the continuation. The Gemara will explain actually. Let's see. Rabbi Yehuda says, Benoi kaidmai. The son comes before the father. Shezeh mitzvah seyal aviv. Because the son, the mitzvah is on his father. V'zeh mitzvahs, and zeh mitzvah al aviv. V'zeh mitzvahs benoi alav. So now this person himself, the mitzvah that he had, that he now has, that is, to redeem himself. So who does that mitzvah rely on really? On his father. Right, so his father didn't do it, so he's going to have to redeem himself. But really that mitzvah originally lies on his father. And v'zeh mitzvah's benoi olav. And over here, the mitzvah that his son has to be redeemed, that mitzvah lies upon him. It's the father's mitzvah. The mitzvah that a father has to redeem his son comes before the mitzvah to redeem himself. Okay, the Gemara will explain how this machlokes. So Rabbi Yirmiyah explains as follows. Hakoil Maidin, everybody agrees. Kol heiche deleka ela chomesh sloim. If all the person has is 5 sloim, to do one pidyon aben, so hu kaidem levnai. So the mitzvah of redeeming himself comes before his son. My timer, what's the reason? The mitzvah, the gufe adife, because the mitzvah that he has to redeem his own body is more important, comes before redeeming his son. Ki pligi, when is the machlokes here between the Tanakama and Rabbi Yehuda? Heiche the ikke chomesh mishubadim v'chomesh b'nei chayrim. As if he has a total value of 10 slayim, but 5 of it is from properties that he doesn't have anymore. He sold it off to someone else. Now it's mishubid, it's responsible here for this mitzvah, but he doesn't have it in his possession anymore. And he still has 5 coins that he does have in his b'nei chayrim that are free, that he has in his own possession. So here, there'll be a machlokes what he should do first. Rabbi Yehuda's opinion is, Milve d'chsiv b'Torah, a loan that is written in the Torah. So this is an expression. What it means is, if the Torah obligates you to give money for a mitzvah, in this case the mitzvah of pidyon aben, so this is like a loan written in the Torah. Keksuva b'shtar damya, it's like a loan that's written in a shtar, in a document. What's the halacha of a loan? If it's just a loan that's given and there's no document to it, you can't collect for this loan from properties that were sold to someone else. A loan that's written in a shtar, because the shtar is a koil and everyone knows about it, so then the buyer could know about this. So over here, you can go and collect the loan from a buyer. So when this mitzvah of pidyon aben is written in the Torah, it's like it was written in a shtar. So therefore, bahani chamesh parek lebrei, the 5 coins that he does have in his possession, he'll redeem his son. And then v'azul kayin, then the kayin will go v'taref le l'chamish mishubadim lididei. And then the kohen can go and take from those properties that were already sold, and he can take it away from the buyer for the mitzvah of pidyon aben to redeem the father himself. So the point over here is, those properties that were sold off are not connected. They're not obligated to be used for the mitzvah of the son, because those properties were sold before the son was born. But for the father's mitzvah to be redeemed, they should be used for his mitzvah. So therefore, if he would redeem himself first with the 5 coins that he has, then the kohen would not be able to go and take that property for the pidyon of the son, because that property has nothing to do with the son. So first he goes and redeems with the money that he has for his son, which is obligated to be used for that mitzvah. And then those properties that are responsible for the pidyon of the father, because they were sold after this person was born, and he did not have a pidyon aben yet, then the kohen can go and use those properties to collect for the pidyon aben of the father. Tosfos argues with Rashi over here on this pshat in the Gemara, but let me just add one detail here to clarify what Rashi holds. Rashi here says that this Gemara here is based on the fact that really the mitzvah that a father has to redeem the son comes before the mitzvah that he has on himself. As far as the obligation of the mitzvah is concerned, really the mitzvah to redeem the son is first. Elamai, when you only have 5 coins, so in such a case we say, even though the mitzvah of your son is a stronger obligation than yourself, but nevertheless, this mitzvah that lies on your own body, even though it's less of a chiyuv, but because it's a chiyuv that is on your own body, you do that first. But in a case where you have these 5 coins that you have in your possession, and then the value of the 5 coins that are not in your possession, so we go back to the default on this a chiyuv, which is the chiyuv of the son on the father comes first. So you do that mitzvah first. And then you allow the kohen to collect from the properties that were sold off that is meshubed for the mitzvah pidyon aben for the father. That's Rashi's pshat in the Gemara here. There's a few pshatim in Rishayim here. Okay, now this is the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. But for Rabbanan Savri, Rabbanan's opinion is, milve d'chsiv ba'iraisa, when you have a loan or you have an obligation of money that you owe, that it says in the Torah, here, the mitzvah pidyon aben, lav keksuva b'shtar damya. This is not compared to a loan that's written in a shtar that you have the ability to collect from those properties that were sold off. So really, you just have 5 coins in your possession. That's it. So for hilkach, mitzvah degufa yadif, if you only have 5 coins, so even if you have the mitzvah to do for your son, but the mitzvah that lies on your own body, that is stronger, and that's you only will be able to redeem yourself, so that comes before the son. Tan Rabbanon, and Abraisa we learned, Liftoi says benoi v'lalis leregal. If a person has enough money to do either pidyon aben or to go and be oile regel, he doesn't have enough money for both. So some say that oile regel means he doesn't have enough money that he needs to spend to be able to travel. Others say lalis l'regel doesn't mean the traveling expenses, but it means the carbon that you bring when you oil a regel. There's a carbon oilas ri'iyah, that he doesn't have money to buy that. So what comes first? Paydez benai, he redeems his son. If he gets money, then he'll go and be oil regel. Rabbi Yehuda says the opposite. Oil regel. First comes the mitzvah of aliyah regel, v'achakach paydez benai, and later on he'll do the mitzvah of pidyon ben. And the reason is shazu mitzvah iveres, the mitzvah of aliyah regel to go to the Beis Hamikdash and Yontiv is a mitzvah that's timely, and if you don't do it now, it's passing and you'll miss the mitzvah. V'zu mitzvah she'eina iveres, the mitzvah of pidyon ben. If you don't do it now, you have time to do it later on. So the Gemara explains this machlokes. Bish loymel Rabbi Yehuda. We understand Rabbi Yehuda's opinion why aliyah regel comes first. Kidukama time. He gave the reason. It's a mitzvah that's passing. El Rabbanon, my taimayo. What's the reason of the Rabbanon that say that you should first do the mitzvah pidyon ben? Says the Gemara Makra, because this is what the pasuk says. Kol b'chor b'necha tiftet. You should redeem your firstborn. And v'hada, afterwards in the same pasuk it says, when you come to B'yol Regel, you shouldn't come empty-handed, you come with a carbon. So that's the order in the pasuk. So the pasuk is clearly teaching me the order. Tan Rabbanon, we learned another brayso about the mitzvah pidyon ben. Minayin shem oile chamisha banim mechamish nashim. How do we know if a person has 5 sons, 5 firstborn sons from 5 wives? Shechayev liftois kulam. So he's obligated to do the mitzvah of pidyon ben for all of them. Talmud Loimar, the pasuk says, Kol b'chor b'necha tifteh. All your sons, you're obligated. Firstborn, you have to redeem them. So it says Kol, even if you have 5 wives and 5 firstborn sons. Fragt the Gemara, Pshita, isn't this obvious? Bepeterechem tol rachmana. When the Torah talks about pidyon ben, the language the pasuk uses is peterechem, the one that's the firstborn from the mother's womb. It doesn't matter if he has the same father. Answers the Gemara, no, but Ma'at the Tema, even though the Torah uses the term Peterechem, but I would have thought maybe to say, Neilef B'chor Minachla. I should learn and compare the term B'chor that it says here from the term B'chor that the Torah says when it comes to an inheritance, where the B'chor, the firstborn, gets a double portion. Ma'ala halon reishis oinai. There the Torah uses the term reishis oinai, which means the one that's the b'chor for the father gets the double portion. Afkan reishis oinai here. It's not enough that he's a b'chor of the mother, but also has to be reishis oinai, the firstborn for the father. Kamash malon kol b'chor b'necha, to say that one father could have more than one firstborn son to do the mitzvah pidyon ben for him. Okay, moving on to the next thing that it mentioned in the brayso that a father is obligated to do for the son. L'lamdai Torah, to teach the son Torah. We know from where we know the chsiv, the pasuk says, "V'limadetem oisam es b'neichem." You should teach the Torah to your son. V'heiche deloi agmirei avua. In a case where the father did not teach him Torah, how do you know that v'chayiv yu lemigman avshei? A person has to teach himself Torah. The chsiv, there's another pasuk. It says, "Ulimadetem." Gemara doesn't bring the continuation, but this is a pasuk. It's in a different place. It says, "Ulimadetem oisam ushmartem lasaisam." So you have to teach yourself Torah. So the first pasuk is v'limadetem. V'limadetem means you should teach your children. And then this pasuk says ulimadetem, you should teach yourself Torah. Now, ihi minola on the loy mechayve. How do I know that a mother is not obligated to teach her son Torah? The chsiv v'limadetem ulimadetem. When the pasuk writes v'limadetem, which means that you should teach your son, it could be read as ulim madatem, that you're teaching yourself. And therefore we say, kol she mitzvah, lilmoid, one that's obligated to learn Torah themselves, mitzvah lalamid, is obligated to teach the child, the son Torah. V'chol she'eina mitzvah lilmoid, if you're not obligated to learn yourself Torah, eina mitzvah lalamid. You're not obligated to teach Torah. Now, v'ihi minalon deloy mechayve l'melov nafsha. How do we know that she's not obligated to teach herself Torah? Tichsiv, because the pasuk says v'limadetem ulimadetem. And the pasuk, when it says to teach your son Torah, it can be read v'limadetem and it can be read ulimadetem. So I say also the opposite. Kol sha'acheirim mitzuvim l'lamdoi. If someone else is obligated to teach you Torah, mitzvah l'lamed, then you're obligated to teach as atzma, to teach yourself Torah. V'chol she'ein acheirim mitzuvim l'lamdoi. If others are not obligated to teach you Torah, ein mitzvah l'lamed as atzma. You're not obligated to learn or teach yourself Torah. How do we know that no one is obligated, the father is not obligated to teach a daughter Torah? The pasuk says, v'loi b'nei seichem. One has to teach the son's Torah and not the daughter's Torah. So a woman is not obligated to learn herself and not obligated to teach her daughter's Torah. But this is only regarding B'chlal, the mitzvah of limudat Torah. But a woman is obligated to learn a lot of Torah because all the mitzvahs that she's obligated to fulfill, she has to know the mitzvahs, the halachas of the mitzvahs to fulfill. That's a ton of Torah that she has to learn. And there's also additionally an Indian of women learning Torah. The Rebbe spoke about this barichas b'negei to in our generation of women learning Torah. But over here you see in the Gemara the obligation, the way it exists by a man to learn Torah does not apply to a woman. There's also a famous thing, the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch brings b'negei to women getting schar for the men who are learning Torah, when they have their husbands or sons go learn Torah and they encourage them or they wait for them to come home, so they get the schar from the men that learn Torah. Tana Rabbanon, and Abraisa we learned, Hu Lilmaid, Ubenai Lilmaid. If there's an option of whether the person should go himself to learn or his son will go, it's not going to be possible they both should go, so who should go? Hu Kaidim Livnai. The obligation that he has to learn Torah himself comes before his son going to learn Torah. Rabbi Yehuda says, "In benoi zariz umemulach." If the son is very swift in his learning and very sharp in his learning, v'talmudei miskayim biyadei, and what he learns, he retains the knowledge he learns. Benoi kaidmai. So the son comes before the father. And the Gemara here brings a story that had happened about this, and kihad Rav Yaakov v'reid Rav Acha bar Yaakov. So Rav Yaakov, which was the son of Rav Acha bar Yaakov, shadrei avu lekamed Abaye. His father sent him to learn by the yeshiva of Abaye. Now, ki also, when he came back home, Chazia, the father, saw that the halachas that he learned, he didn't really get it and sharply well. So Malay, his father, Rav Acha bar Yaakov, says, if so, my learning comes before yours, I'm better than you. Tov at, you sit over here, the Ezel ana, and instead I'm going to go to learn Torah. Now Shoma Abaye heard the Ka'ava Asi, that Rav Acha bar Yaakov, which was a very great person, was on the way coming. Now Havahu Mazik Be'Rabbanon da Abaye. There was this Mazik, a Shin Dalet, that would come there and would be Mazik. It would harm the yeshiva students when they came over there into the Beis Medrash by Abaye. The Chava Aili Betrein Afilu B'Yamam, when they would come into the Beis Medrash, even if two came together, and even if it was during the day, having mistaki, they would get harmed from this shindala that was harming them. Amalahu. So now he heard that Rav Acha bar Yaakov is coming. He said, nobody should give him any lodging. No one should allow him into the house, and he's going to be forced to come to the Beis Medrash and sleep there. Efsher the misrachish nisa. Possibly the Eibishter will do a nest for such a great person, and he will get rid of this mazik. So he came and bas bahu beirabanan. He came in to go to sleep in this Beis Medrash. So idmile ketanine de shivir eshvasei. So this mazik, this shindalit, came and appeared to him like a snake with 7 heads. Now kol kriye de kara. So every time he davened and he bowed to the Eibishter that the Eibishter should get rid of this mazik, notar chad reishe. One head was cut off, fell off, until he killed this mazik completely. And amaluhu lemachar, the next day he said to Abaye, he said to them, Eloi yisrachish niseh. If not for the fact that the Eibishter brought a nest here, Sakintin, you put my life in danger. Tana Rabbana, we learned in Abraisa. Lil my Torah v'lisa isha. To learn Torah or to get married and to have children. Also a great mitzvah of Piri V'Ribya. What comes first? Yilmid Torah. First the person should learn Torah. V'achakach yisa isha. And then he should go ahead and learn Torah. V'im i'ef shaloi b'lo isha. And if he can't learn Torah without first being married, so the as we'll see here from Rashi, the continuation of the Gemara, so because if a person is not married, so then we're concerned about hirhurim, inappropriate thoughts that he might be having. So he wants to first get married. So then Yisa Isha, he should first get married, v'achakach yilmid Torah, and then he should go ahead and learn Torah. Rav Yehuda Shmuel halacha. So Rav Yehuda said in the name of Shmuel that we paskin noisa isha. First, the person should get married, v'achakach yilmid Torah, and only afterwards you should learn Torah. Rabbi Yechanan says no, you can't say that. If he's married now, he has a wife and they have children as well, and he'll have a meal that's on his neck, meaning an obligation to provide and feed his family. V'yasik b'Torah, and he'll be able to sit and learn Torah with a peace of mind. Okay, so we have this machlokes in Shmuel and Rabbi Yechanan, what a person should do first. learn Torah and then get married, or get married and then learn Torah. Says the Gemara v'lei pligi, there's no argument between them. Halon v'halahu. One is talking about for us over here in Bavel, and the other is talking for them over there in Eretz Yisrael. So Rashi's pshat in this Gemara is that the Bnei Bavel, after they got married, they would go and learn in Eretz Yisrael. So because they're going to learn in Eretz Yisrael, so then the parnasa of their family did not lie upon them. So the issue of Rechaim b'tzavore, that he has to provide parnasa after he gets married, was not an issue. Once they already married, they were married, even though they left, Rashi says there's no issue of hirur, of bad and illicit thoughts, and they would go and learn Torah in Eretz Yisrael. That's for the people of Bavel. On the other hand, for people of Eretz Yisrael, because they don't leave anywhere, they get married and they stay there in Eretz Yisrael, so they're going to have to be there with their family and provide the parnasa for the family, so they're going to be, then their learning Torah is not going to be properly, it's going to be mevatel their learning. That's Rashi's pshat. Taisus, however, disagrees. Taisus says that if they're getting married and then they're leaving, so then what's the point of them getting married if they're anyways leaving right away? The whole point is that they have a wife and they don't have any hirhurim ra'im thinking about anyone else, but over here, they're leaving right away. Taisus' pshat is the exact opposite. That when it says in the Gemara, halon, it means that the people in Bavel, so they could first get married to a wife and then learn Torah because they... the people in Bavel, they remain over there in Bavel. So they didn't go to Eretz Yisrael. They remained there in Bavel, actually. So because they remain there, so the problem, Rabbi Yochanan says, Rechaim b'tzavore, that they're there with their families, so they have a Rechaim b'tzavore, they can't learn Torah. And also, Taisa says, the people in Bavel were poor. That's the main problem here. Because they were poor, so if they're getting married, they're going to have a hard time learning Torah. But in Eretz Yisrael, they learned Torah, and they stayed there also with their families, but they were richer, they had enough money. So therefore they could learn Torah with their wives, with Tara, without any bad thoughts, and they're rich, and they could learn Torah over there. Okay, those are the two pshatim here in the Gemara. The Rebbe mentioned a few times by the Chassidim of the Rebbe Marash, that the minig was then that they would get married, and then they would leave right after they got married to go stay by the Rebbe Marash for a half a year, or a year, or even up to a year and a half, and they were called Yeshvim. They would sit by the Rebbe Marash and learn Torah. And the Rebbe's grandfather, Rebbe Meir Shlomo Yanovsky, yesterday was his yard site, Chav Gimel Elul. So he was one of the Yeshvim. He left and went to stay by the Rebbe Marash for a long time. Similar to Rashi's pshat here in the Gemara, the Bnei Eretz Yisrael, after they got married, would leave to, or Bnei Bavel that is, they would leave from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael. We once learned about this in a Gemara. It discusses about a husband leaving his wife for an extended period of time. The Gemara discusses how long are you allowed to leave, and the Gemara gives it. But if you get special permission from your wife, then you're allowed to leave. The Gemara discusses this also in another place. Okay, sagt die Gemara weiter, Mishtabeyach le Rav Chisda le Rav Huna b'd Rav Amnuna. Rav Chisda was praising Rav Amnuna in front of Rav Huna, the Adam Gadolhu, that he is a great person. Amalei, so Rav Huna said, if so, kishiyavel liyatcha haviel yadi. So when Rav Amnuna comes to you, bring him to me, I want to see him. Kiyasa, when Rav Amnuna came, chazye de lepare sudra. He saw that he wasn't wearing a handkerchief on his head, meaning he wasn't wearing a head covering. In those times, only one that was married would wear a head covering, or maybe this is a second head covering, and he wasn't wearing that head covering. Amalei, my time prisa sudra. He was sure that he was married already. Though this head covering was worn only by those that were married. So he asks him, why aren't you wearing a sudra, a head covering? Amalei de loy nesivna. I'm not married yet. So adrinu la'ape minei. So Rav Huna turned away from Rav Nuna. He didn't want to see him. Amalei, he said to him, Chazi, you should see. Deloy chazes luhula api. You shouldn't see my face. Ad nisvus. Until you get married. Rav Huna l'tamei. The reason why Rav Huna wanted him immediately to go and get married, Rav Huna follows what he said in a different place. The Amari said, then esrim shana. And you come to the age of 20. V'lay nasi isha, and you didn't get married yet. Kol yama of ba'aveda. Your entire life will be a life with sin. Your entire life will be with sin because you didn't get married at this age. Rather, you should say kol yama of behirur aveda. All your life, he says, will be with the thoughts of aveda. Because if at the age of 20 a person is not yet married and he has his thoughts that he could be thinking about anyone, he doesn't have a wife yet, so then those hirhurim remain with him all his life. Amar Rav said, and Rabbi Shmuel taught the same thing. At Chav Shana, until the age of 20, Yeshiv HaKadosh Baruch Hu Mitzapel Adam, the Eibishter waits for a person, Masa Yisisha, when is he going to get married? Kivin She'Igia Chav, when he got to the age of 20, V'loi Nasa, and he didn't get married, Oimer, the Eibusha says, Tepachatz Moisav. His bones should dry up. I think that's a translation. Rav Chisda said about this, the fact that I'm stronger and better in his learning and so on than his friends, because I got married when I was 16. If I would have gotten married when I was 14, then I would be able to tell the Satan, I would be able to throw arrows into the Satan's eyes, and I would never be afraid that he would cause me to sin. So here you see in the Gemara, when's the right time to get married? At least from the age of 20. Okay, not come.